I was bi and out in high school. Let's dish. Hello darlings, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hahn, and if you don't know me, I'm a disabled opera singer, and happy Pride Month! And because it is Pride Month, let's talk about being bi and out in high school in the mid-2000s. It was a time. To talk about how I got to being out in high school, let's talk first about coming out and the process of finding out I was bi. And it was, not that dramatic. Wait, first an addendum. I am going to talk about some other people's sexuality here, but not by name. There's only one person I will name in this video in relation to their sexuality, and I have asked their permission to do so. Just don't talk explicitly about other people's sexuality without their permission. It's not cool. So here's the story. I understood that I was attracted to girls from a very young age, and I knew what that was because of my mom. I grew up knowing that the person my mom had been with directly before she met and married my father was a woman. And how did I know that? Because she was my godmother. That meant that I understood that queerness was a thing really young. So when I had my first crush on a boy, I was about age 6, but when I had my first crush on a girl, I was about age 7. And I knew what that was and what that could be. I didn't know anything beyond the gender binary at the time. I just understood the people I was attracted to be either boys or girls. So by the time I understood what coming out was, I was coming out. I remember telling a friend of mine when we were like 8 or 9 that I was bi, and that person saying, "What does that mean?" And when I explained it to that person, they immediately said, "Oh, I feel that way too," and sort of came out to me on the spot as well. So I was already talking to people about my queerness very young. I don't think I told my parents until I was like in my early teens because I didn't think it was relevant. I told my mom when we were brushing our teeth and she was like, "Huh. Cool." And I don't even really remember telling my dad. I just sort of started talking to him about liking girls because he had known that about my mom as well, so not a shock. Yeah, I grew up in a position of profound privilege in the queer community to have such supportive family members and people around me. And I knew that from a very young age too, because I had, by the time I was in my early teens, started hearing the homophobic slurs just around me. So by the time I got to high school, I knew that I was in a position to be more out than other people and to still be safe that way. So I made the choice really early on to do that. I was also in a fairly accepting school for, the mid-2000s, so I felt like being out could make a difference. I'm about to use some examples of some homophobic things I would see and hear in the early 2000s, so if you want to skip all of that, go to this lovely timestamp right here. People would use the phrase, "that's so gay," as a negative descriptor. I heard a lot of "no homo," just sort of used as colloquialisms without any examination on the part of the people saying them on what that actually meant. But other than that, it was a fairly physically safe school that I finally went to. I went to a whole bunch of high schools. It's a whole other story I'm not even going to go into. I'm going to go mostly into my final high school. So I knew I wasn't in danger, and I felt like I could do some good. So I went to school and I started talking really casually, really openly about being bi. I was in the theater program, and the theater program is where all the cool kids were, obviously, but also where people could really most freely express themselves. So that was sort of the place for a little queer baby such as myself to be. And for the most part, people were really, really supportive. I was able during that time I was there to discover what the word pansexual meant and think about how that applied to me. I now, to describe my sexuality, use the words bisexual and pansexual interchangeably. They aren't interchangeable for a lot of people, but they are for me. So I found that out because I was able to have those conversations in high school, which was really, really cool. People felt safer coming to me and asking me questions about sexual or queer identity, gender expression, etc. I felt really, really privileged to be able to do that. Yeah, it was mostly really good, but there's a but.
Let's do this.
This is just sparkling water. More than once in high school, someone asked me out. I went out with them a couple times and said, "It's not working out, let's just be friends." And then I later found out that the person had asked me out because they thought I would be, quote unquote, an easy bedroom conquest because I was bi. That was the stereotype, that being bi meant you were easy to get in bed. It's not a moral failing if you are, but why is that attached to queer identity? I remember more than once telling that person, "Well, no, that's not how it works.
That's not how any of this works."
And at the time, those people were actually kind of surprised. Like, they truly didn't know any better. They didn't realize they had made that assumption. I jumped around high schools a lot before I got to my final high school, the one I'm sort of talking about. Meaning that when it came to sex ed, I had gotten the like official classes that you're supposed to get in high school several times because I had been in different schools. So I knew the material really well. People, when they went to those classes, would be able to ask me questions and I'd know the answer. Like other students, when they went to those classes in that school, if they went away from those classes with any questions, were able to ask me the answers and I would be able to tell them. So I think it's those two things that combined together that really made it so people assumed that I would therefore put out. I got to the point where I actually started using the word I was being called for it and making it my own, claiming ownership of it and also de-weaponizing it in the hands of others. It's a word I can't say on YouTube or the algorithm will get super mad, but it's 4 letters and starts with S. So yeah. I made it my own, using it like an identifier, and challenged the idea that it was a bad thing, but also actively worked to separate that word from my queerness. It was about me, not about bisexuality. People who knew me back then may not know where this whole crusade I went on started, but it was biphobia. It was biphobia that started it. I don't think those people who thought that bisexuality affected my number of sexual partners were bad people. I think they were misinformed straight people in the early to mid 2000s. And I don't think they would think that now. One hopes we're all better people than we were in high school, right? Like that's what high school's for. The other thing that I did experience that was not like fantastic was that some of the people I knew who knew they were part of the LGBTQ community at that point didn't think I counted because I was dating boys. And I told them pretty clearly, I'm dating boys, sure, but I'm in high school in the mid 2000s. It's significantly easier to date boys, at least in that time and in that space. What was really hard to get across in some circles and in some places was that when I was in a relationship with a man, that did not make me straight. These things are things that people struggle with now and that are still relevant today. Hopefully, over time, there can be more and more of us who are safe enough to be open about their identity. If you were not, your identity is still yours, and I see you and I love you. You are under no obligation to come out if you don't feel ready to do so for whatever reason. Pride Month is still your month. It's still for you. Pride Month to me is not just about a celebration of identity and of who we are. It's also about Pride Month's history of protest, Pride Month's history of being about change. I can mark some change even now between just today and back when I was in high school. That's not a very long time, but change has been made. That said, we're not done. I hope you enjoyed this quick little story. Remember that if you were looking for a joyful little corner of the internet where we could discuss opera, disability, queerness, cats, and tea, you have found it. And if you weren't looking for it, you have found it anyway. So do go hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell. Keep the comment section full of joy and rainbows, and I will see you in my next video. If you are bi, you're queer enough. Should I have sung it? Should I have sung it? Some other. Oof, my eyelash got stuck. Happy Pride Month! I don't need that. Yeah, I shouldn't have sung it. My camera died. I think it overheated, and while it was cooling down, I made myself some cereal. But I have a snack before we keep going.